Hey, my name is Tyler Boronski. You're watching my YouTube channel where I sit down with recognizable faces in entertainment and the digital space. Today's guest, I think it's safe to say, he's one of Jeopardy's all-time greatest players, the highest earning contestant ever in the show, and now a frequent contributor on the thrilling quiz show, The Chase. You can catch that on ABC in the US and City TV in Canada. And you can even see him on making a little cameo on the Amazon Prime show, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So he's kind of everywhere right now. Brad Rutter, hello, and thank you for joining us today.
Nice to be here, Tyler.
Glad to have you on. Now, Brad, you're kind of in the minority where there are more categories, I would say, that you know that you don't know. So I guess what are a few categories that would actually stump you if they were presented?
Well, I'm working on this, but one thing that I definitely have to prepare for The Chase is there's a dirty rumor that I turned 45 a few months ago. So it's pretty hard for me to keep up with the current pop charts. So I really have to make an effort. Like, stuff from like 15 years ago now, I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty current. No, it's you'll all find out when you get old. It's really hard to keep up with the new music, and especially music, but also TV and movies. The other thing too is like, I think about like There Will Be Blood or, No Country for Old Men. That seems like that came out 3 years ago, but it's getting to be like 15 now. So yeah, time moves pretty fast.
So I'll be catching you in your free time listening to like Lizzo.
Yeah. Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah, Olivia Rodrigo. I think that's fair. I'm sure you get it all the time. People that are competing on Jeopardy for the first time, they go to you for advice. I'm sure Jeopardy is something you can't fully prepare for. I mean, it's like, I guess, life, just accumulating all the knowledge over time. But when first-time Jeopardy contestants reach out to you for advice, what do you usually tell them?
Well, there are certain, you can't really study for Jeopardy. You can't, there's no sort of canon of knowledge, but there is a lot of stuff that comes up all the time that they ask about all the time. So what I like to tell them is there's some things you can memorize that you can feel pretty confident that are, at least one of them is going to come up in some way, and that is presidents, world capitals, and Shakespeare. Now, that's not every single show, but I'd say probably 80% of them, at least one of those three topics comes up in some way. So I do this too when I'm getting ready to go back on the show, is I memorize all the presidents by number in order, all the vice presidents and first ladies too, that's good. But if you're just going on for the first time, presidents is good. Every world capital, especially because those change pretty frequently, and every Shakespeare play with like characters and the plot highlights. If you know all those, you'll have a big advantage going in.
How about anything with like the speed of hitting the buzzer? Because outside of doing this, I work for a local TV station, and I interviewed like someone here in Vermont that was competing on Jeopardy for the first time, and she said she tried to practice with like a ballpoint pen as like the buzzer, but she said it really didn't translate the way she was hoping. So anything along those lines?
It's really not the same. I've never encountered anything else quite like the Jeopardy buzzer, even playing like Quiz Bowl in high school and college. It's sort of unique, and really the only chance you get to practice is the practice rounds they have you play before, like an hour before you take. So you're pretty much just thrown out there, and you have to figure it out on TV, which is pretty crazy. Also why the returning champion has a big advantage every show, just because they have played at least one full game with that buzzer and the other two people haven't.
Brad, obviously you've had a relationship with Jeopardy for over 20 plus years at this point, I would say. So you've got to spend some time with Alex Trebek. What are the memories that come to mind when you think about Alex?
Alex had a very dry, wicked sense of humor, which I can't think of anything specific but during the commercial breaks, he'd always be joking around and, doing little soft shoes, and he had a German accent he liked to do. He was really a lot of fun, even though once the red light was on and the cameras were rolling, he was all business and all about the show. So that's one thing I really admire about him, is that he really took his job very seriously, but he never really took himself seriously, which I think that's a good life lesson for anybody.
Like I mentioned in the intro, right now you are contributing on a show called The Chase. I know it's the third season, but for someone that maybe still isn't familiar with the show, can you break down the format and what role you play in the show?
Sure. We bring a team of 3 trivia amateurs on, people who think they're pretty good and have never met before that day. And they team up to go against one of 5 chasers who are trivia professionals. That would be me, James Holtzauer, Victoria Gross, Brandon Blackwell, and Buzzy Cohen. And they go through a series of rounds trying to build a cash bank, which they then risk against whoever happens to be the chaser that evening. And then it all comes down to a rapid fire race at the end in the final chase, where the contestants, however many of them are still around, because we can catch them in their individual face-offs against us. However many contestants are left, try to put up a number in 2 minutes of questions that they answered, and then the chaser has to match that. If the chaser can't match that, they keep all the money they banked and go home with it. It's usually around 6 figures on our primetime TV show. And if the chaser catches them, they leave with nothing. So it's high stakes, fun, fast paced, enjoyable for the whole family.
How's your success rate so far when they had to match up with you? What are your statistics
I'm
right now?
around 500. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but yeah, and that's actually the people complain a lot. It's like, oh, the contestants never win. The contestants win half the time. So it's just, I understand that prodigious assemblage of trivia talent up there, like you would think that they wouldn't, but the contestants win half the time. So yeah, it's always suspenseful and usually a pretty close game at the end.
What's the filming process like for a show like this? Do you guys just film a bunch of episodes at once? Like, hey, set on one day and we'll just knock out a bunch? Or how do you guys go about filming this show?
It's a really good balance of sort of gang taping everything, but not, overburdening ourselves. So we do 2 every day, and we'll block out maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then shoot it that way. So and then we'll have days off in between, and also the weekends. So honestly, the hardest part is Sarah's schedule. Just getting enough time for her blocked out so that we can shoot everything. Which also makes it a little easier because we sort of have to do it all at once. So yeah, we tape a bunch at a time, but only 2 a day, that's sort of the perfect schedule.
Last thing for you, Brad. You've spent a long time now just on television quiz shows, just game shows in general. What would you say if you were to break down like the nuance of, a quality television game show? What makes up a quality show at the end of the day?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that quiz shows are the original interactive television, sort of the original reality TV too. So you want something where everyone can play along, from grandma to, the kid in elementary school. And that's one of the reasons why Jeopardy has lasted so long, is because everyone will know at least one correct response to the clue on every. And people say that to me all the time. They're like, oh, I watch Jeopardy every night. If I get just one right, I feel really good. And that's sort of the key. And also personalities. That's the reality TV aspect of it. And that's why, again, on Jeopardy, they, tell you what the people do for a living. They have little anecdotes. They could have gotten rid of that 40 years ago if they wanted to. But people want to get to know the contestants a little bit so they know who to root for and or against. So yeah, personalities and interactivity, that's what you're going for.
Brad Rutter, one of the greatest all-time players from Jeopardy, now on the show The Chase, and making people work on that show now. Brad, thanks so much.
Thanks, Tyler.